Hello, everyone, and welcome to Super Switch Headz, the premier Nintendo podcast in all of the internet. My name is Matthew Stoner.
My name is Patrick Knisley.
My name is David Howe, and boy, oh boy, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined by a very special guest on today's episode. Jay Rios joins the podcast again. How's it going, Jay?
It's going pretty good. How are y'all doing?
Very good.
Yeah, Jay, you are here to talk about, there's a new Metroid game that came out. Metroid Dread is out. You're probably playing it. You're here this whole episode. David is pointing in the video version of this, is pointing at a Metroid Dread poster that's on his wall. That's our main focus of today's episode. Do a little brief recap of Metroid and then talk about what we think of Dread and some of our first impressions. Metroid Dread. Dread is another emotion we won't be talking about. In the news, we'll be discussing Metroid just a little bit. The OLED Nintendo Switch model came out. Some of us have it. Some of us don't. Patrick will give you an update on his situation. And then one of the cool things that happened last week is Sora is finally here. Got announced as the final Smash DLC character. Got all that and a bunch more news for you. Before we get started, how y'all doing?
Pretty good. Had a trying weekend in some ways, and then also a delightful weekend in others. Just hung out a lot and played a fuck ton of Metroid, man, and like some other stuff too. I'm excited to talk about all of it, but it was a very relaxing weekend as far as my home life was concerned. For the most part, playing a lot of video games.
Yeah, me too. I had a similar weekend. I've been playing Dread. I beat it in almost 1.5 sittings, and then finished up Squid Game.
I'm doing all right. I've been a little bit grumpy today, but it's nice to be here with y'all. I think this is a 4-day weekend for me because of my son's school being off. I think in part maybe for Indigenous Peoples Days, but also just like they had a staff holiday or whatever. And on Friday. But yeah, I don't know if it's like the fact that I'm now like self-employed and also trying to like do a lot of stuff. Like I'm like anxious to get back to my like week. You know what I mean? It's 4 days. I'm ready. I'm a little bit grumpy. I didn't sleep super great last night because there's a big storm here and I don't know. Anyway, I'm talking about a lot of random stuff.
That storm, before we get to Jay's week, that storm last night, I was like still up when that storm hit. And I was actually sitting on my balcony playing Metroid Dread in the pouring rain and thunder, and it felt very appropriate. That was one of the many great things about the Switch is you can sit out in the rain and play. But Jay, how was your weekend, man?
It's been going good. Kind of same, little bit relaxing here and there and whatnot. Played some Dread, definitely didn't beat it, but
yeah,
we'll get to my thoughts later. And it's been going good.
Very good. Yeah, I think Matt's the only one that's beaten the game so far. I think that's correct.
Yeah.
We'll have
I think
Matt will drop all the spoilers. Don't worry.
We'll try to get an entire section that's going to be me talking spoilers, right? To you.
Yeah, and it's just going la 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 la.
Well, last week we talked about the Nintendo 64 and that coming to NSO and some of our favorite games. And we got lots of great discussion on the Discord. So much we can't really shout out everybody, but a couple of the comments we got on other places on Instagram. Sprowlex2 mentioned that they used to play a ton of StarCraft 64 and said that was left-handed. Is that a StarCraft reference? I don't know what that means. Do y'all know what that means?
I have no idea what that means.
Sprowlex, let us know what that means.
But good call, by the way, on StarCraft 64. We totally forgot that one last time.
Yeah. Shout out for everyone listening to that episode. A bunch of us just talking about a shit ton of listicles where we just list N64 games.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Ant Keeps Gaming on YouTube mentioned that Nintendo 64 where they started their Nintendo journey and mentioned GoldenEye and the mine freezing glitch, which also got talked about on the Discord as well.
Yeah, I did that one. I also did I think you could like stack proximity mines. Is that the same glitch? You could just have like a tube of mines like coming out at your face. And, I did that one a lot.
And not related to the Nintendo 64, but I want to shout out Michael Domingue our friend of the show who's been on a few times. This is a news item we'll talk about, but they say they need 5 minutes in the future to discuss Metroid Dread running on PC emulators. I'd love to hear Mikey Dodo's opinion about this. So maybe let's talk, Michael.
Yeah, let's do it. Maybe we'll do a special episode or something.
Yeah, that might be worth it.
Yeah.
So we always appreciate hearing from our listeners or viewers. So please send us a note. We also appreciate it when you share the podcast with a friend or post it somewhere online. Or please also remember to like and subscribe on YouTube. That's always very helpful. And unless there's any other business, let's get into the news for the week. So we record on Monday nights, which means we kind of had a little bit of a weird timing here with Sora being announced for Smash. So this is our first real chance to talk about it. We did a live stream of our reaction, so you can check that out if you want, but we can now actually discuss how we feel about it. Sora was announced for Smash. Not out yet, coming out October 18th. What do y'all think about that presentation, or just the fact of Sora? We can talk about the Mii fighters at the stage or any of that stuff, but just let's start with Sora. What do y'all think?
You know, I mentioned this online and everywhere. I was like, Phoenix Wright. I want it to be Phoenix Wright. But the second those two notes hit, I was like, that was the right choice. Like,
yeah.
I got emotional, and then like I texted. I have this friend that's like obsessed with Kingdom Hearts. Texted him, and it just felt nice. Like everyone. I knew like one person who was like, oh, I don't like this choice. Everyone else was like on board. So it was kind of a cool experience, especially for the last fighter.
Absolutely. Yeah, this was definitely every time a character is revealed, it always like splits the fan base, right? And it's like this felt the least toxic of all the character reveals, right? It's like I think they picked the right one for the final one, and it helped that during that presentation too, he was like, hey guys, when we did the Smash ballot like 6 years ago or whatever, like Sora was number 1. So this is on you if you didn't want it. Like
6 years ago, though.
Yeah.
I remember voting in that too, which is kind of crazy.
Too. I voted for Rayman, Dixie Kong, and Tails, which were the 3 that I wanted. But it's okay. I digress. Matt, as a big Kingdom Hearts fan, were you happy to see Sora?
I'm a huge Kingdom head. Let me tell you.
Are you not? You're the only one I know that played 3.
I'm
the only person on Earth.
I love Kingdom Hearts. I think it's like the music and all the characters, all the Square characters and all the Disney worlds kind of combined. I think Sora is a perfect way to end Smash DLC, to be the last fighter. I think there's a little bit of disappointment in it, but when comparing, like, everyone wanted Waluigi, but like, we would have got Waluigi, we would have laughed about it. We would have been excited for 2 days, and then the joke would have faded. And then
speak for yourself, brother.
Come on.
I'd have laughed for the next year.
I legit like wanted Waluigi like as a character. I just thought Waluigi would have been a great choice as like a Mario Sports representative.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like we have Sora, which represents like a huge
keys.
Keys. He loves keys. They operate all sorts of things. It represents so many different communities across the gaming sphere, of like RPG to action RPG to different types of gamer, casual gamers and hardcore gamers. I think it's like the perfect balance from a character perspective of what we have in Smash.
Yeah, and Sakurai got to get another anime sword boy in, so everybody wins.
It's good for everyone.
Well, we still have to wait till the 18th to actually play as Sora or play against them and see what they feel like. But just watching the presentation, Sora has some incredible movement and air attacks, and the big weakness seems to be how light Sora is. So we'll see what the balance there is, but.
Yeah, he seems like he's a lot easier to pick up and play than most of the DLC fighters, which has been my one kind of criticism of the DLC fighters, right? Is that it's like they all look fun, but it looks like I'm going to have to like put in the time to figure them out and master them. Sora looks like you could just jump around and smack people with that thing, and it would be a lot of fun. So I'm excited for that. Also, I think it's funny that they were able to get Sora and somehow were able to strip any other kind of Disney representation from the game entirely. Like even all the little graphics that usually have the Disney characters in them are replaced with like random Kingdom Hearts items and shit like that. I find that to be pretty funny, if not a little disappointing.
Maybe we talk about the Miis then. There were 2 Splatoon Miis, and then Doom Guy got a Mii. So I thought there might be more Miis, especially since they announced them before the fighter. I thought it might be like deconfirmation, but it was just like, I guess an Octoling's not getting it. And then Doom Guy. But cool that Doom Guy has a Mii, I guess.
Very weird that they held Splatoon Miis for this last one. I'm not really sure what that's all about. But yeah, I think it is cool to see Doomslayer. And
yeah. The other big news out of this that we could talk about would maybe be the Kingdom Hearts games, right? Sora coming into Smash, and I'm sure like many people watching this were like, but you can't play most of the Kingdom, well, any other than that one rhythm game on the Switch. But they're all coming at some, correct me if I'm wrong, undetermined future date as cloud versions, right? Like every one of them is a cloud game and we don't know when, right?
Right. I believe that's true. Yeah.
Happy they're coming, upset that they're cloud versions. What's the take on the room? I see you kind of thinking about it, Jay.
I'm happy about it. I'm same consensus as everyone else. I don't get why the first 2 can't be just like straight up games, you know?
Yeah.
3 is a cloud, makes sense. The first 2, not so much. So I'm like a little hesitant, but I love 2 so much, I might just do it. So we'll see.
I don't know a lot about Kingdom Hearts. I've never played one. So those, Jay and Matthew, like, is timing really important in these games? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, are they more turn-based? Or I know that you said action RPG. So like, what's the, you know what I mean? Is there any detriment to them being cloud games?
You think like if the cloud version introduces input lag?
Yeah, basically.
I haven't played a cloud version yet on Switch. Maybe
I haven't either.
David, you've played Control, right?
Yeah, I didn't buy Control, but I mean, any cloud version of any game that comes out, you can just start playing, right? Because there's no install. So basically the way that they do demos is generally you just play for like 40 minutes and then they cut you off, right? So I played the beginning of Control and I was very impressed, to be honest. By the latency, by the visual fidelity. It looked like a next-gen game on the Switch. You know what I mean? Like if you look really close, you can see streaming artifacts and whatever. But for the most part, I was actually really impressed. The thing I think that bothers me most about this is that JRPGs on the Switch are something that you want to be able to like put into sleep mode, throw in your bag, and then take it with you on the train or whatever to like keep playing, right? And that's just something you can't do. And that to me is one of the big major selling points of the Switch. And so it's like playing a really long game where I know I'm going to have to be like stuck either at my house or at a place with Wi-Fi for an extended period of time is a big turnoff for me. And I might as well get it for like, it's on Game Pass. So I might as well just, get it on the Xbox if I'm going to play it at this point.
That makes sense.
That's a good point. That's a really good point, David.
Yeah, I don't know how much it would affect. I'm thinking about 2, and I think there are some parts that I'm like, if there's enough lag, it could throw some things off, but not enough to like ruin the game. But yeah, like I agree with you as far as the cloud stuff. Like it's just going to be weird for a game like that.
Yeah, I wonder what the load times are going to be like going from like fresh install to getting into the game or closing the cloud version and reopening it.
We typically record on Monday nights, so Sora comes out on October 18th. But after we're done recording, I'm definitely going to be playing. So if you're out there and you want to find somebody to play with, come join our Discord. I will be setting up an arena if there aren't already arenas going on our Discord to try out Sora. Come join us and on release night. I
mean, Sora's only.
Yeah. Every time a new character releases, it's only the one character only.
Except for the one person that didn't buy it, yeah.
Yeah, which is usually Amir. Yeah.
All right. Well, so Nintendo announced that the Animal Crossing Direct is happening on October 15th at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central Time, which is where we are. So that's pretty cool. We've been waiting for that date. We're going to see very soon. That's this Friday. What's going on with this presumably decent Animal Crossing update, right? Like we're all expecting this to be pretty big because they're doing a direct.
Hopefully. It's going to be 20 minutes long. Is that what they said? That's
a great question. I don't know if they said that.
I think they said that. Maybe I'm wrong. I heard that somewhere.
Yeah, nice. Whether you believe them or not, Samus Hunter on Twitter is a Nintendo leaker of some repute, as I like to say, that has said what's going to be in this. If you want to, we won't necessarily talk about it right now unless y'all want to. Like, we can avoid those spoilers. I'm trying to a little bit, but I've read a little bit about what they said. So if you want to go out and find out before Friday, you can go look at Samus Hunter on Twitter. But
I'm definitely. I want to hear the spoilers. I don't give a fuck.
They could be wrong too, So who knows?
Right? Maybe potential spoiler warning for the next minute. Unless Jay, you don't want to hear them.
It's fine. I mean, I'll probably go check it out anyways, just to see, because I have some conflicting thoughts, I guess, on this.
Yeah. What's like one of the highlights
of the spoiler, or
of Samus Hunter's leak?
I guess that Cap'n is part of it.
Okay, gotcha. That's hype.
I love that.
Yeah,
good.
That there's another one that I think is big is that there's a store expansion beyond what we've already got, and then that there's some more villager stuff, like new villagers. They're vague about some of this stuff too. Like
it's Sora. Sora's coming.
Goofy and Donald are villagers.
Yeah, finally.
No, that's great though. I mean, like that's all you need to say. It's like
there's more.
That
too.
sounds
actually big ones too.
That's like substantial, and it's like it's stuff like that is not just, hey, there's a cafe inside the museum. Yeah. That's what I was worried this was going to be, and they were going to stretch it out for a long time. So it sounds like there's going to be a lot more, and maybe this is wrong. Maybe it will just be a fucking store upgrade for the museum, a gift shop, maybe. But either way, that's cool, and maybe the only thing that's going to bring me back to Animal Crossing, other than transferring Animal Crossing to my OLED and making sure the island still loads, which I did too.
Well, I guess we'll all find out on Friday, and we'll talk about that next week. Jackbox Party Pack 6. I don't know why that's so hard to say out loud. I don't know if I've ever said it out loud. Is got a game trial on the Nintendo Switch Online. Like we've talked about kind of recently, they've been doing more of these game trials, which has been great. This is one I might actually check out. I don't have this game, and seems like something that'd be worth checking out. Typically these go on sale afterwards too. I don't know if that's gonna happen. It probably will, but I don't
these games just go on sale willy-nilly all the time. Yeah, so I would definitely expect it to.
But October 13th through October 19th. Again, thank you, Nintendo, for actually making these dates line up with our podcast now. Whereas they used to be the opposite. So that's cool.
Yeah, there are 2 games on Jackbox Party Pack 6. There's like an Among Us, like a deception game called Push the Button. That was really great, really fun to play.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah. And then also popular one, Trivia Murder Party. The second version is on Party Pack 6.
Nice.
I have one question for you guys. And it's how much box could a Jackbox pack if a Jackbox could pack box? 6
parties.
No, but this is all seriousness, folks. Come on. This is the first one that I will actually be checking out, because it's like this. You can actually, like, this weekend now, just like have a party with some friends and actually like get a good amount of enjoyment out of it. So it's like, this will be a good one to try this weekend. So I'm very excited for that.
I'm surprised you never played Jackbox.
No, I have. Excuse me. When I say
you hate Jackbox, what's the problem?
No, I'm a
Jackbox Party Pack.
I'm a Jackbox Party Pack fan. Okay, no, what I'm saying is I'm like a Drawful fan and all that kind of stuff. What I'm saying is this is the first game trial that I'll be trying out. Like all the other games that have gone on the game trials have either been games I already owned or I just had zero interest in. This is a game I don't own and will actually get a lot of use out of if I can actually like get some people together this weekend, which I'm now going to try to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, moving on, this next news item also relates to Nintendo Switch Online, the Nintendo 64 games that are coming out. I haven't really followed this for two reasons. One is I don't live in Europe. And the other one is I don't technically understand this. So maybe one of y'all can explain this to me, but there's been some discussion about and some complaints and questions around the European, how many hertz these games are going to be running in.
Yes.
And I assume that has to do with television differences from back in the day. Can somebody, David, do you understand this, or Matthew?
Yeah,
do you understand this?
I'll take this one if that's all right with you, Matthew.
Please. It's all right with me.
No. So anyway, TVs in Europe historically have been PAL region coded, right? And that means that a lot of the TVs generally ran at 50 hertz as opposed to 60 hertz. NTSC runs at 60 hertz, which allows for 60 frames per second content in gaming, right? So a lot of Nintendo games and just video games in general, PlayStation is famously bad with this as well, that were released in the 90s, were made for 50 hertz CRT TVs in Europe. And what that means is that these games that usually run at 60 frames per second are running at 50 frames per second, which means they're just running slower. Right. So John Cartwright from Nintendo Life did a great video on this where he showed that the European version of the Direct that was shown had the PAL version of Ocarina of Time playing. And he lined up the videos and you could see that the game is slightly slower than the other. And that's not a big deal, but it means that the combat is slower. It means the music is slower. It means just the whole game is an inferior version essentially, right? And it's not the way the game was designed. So a lot of people were really worried that, the European eShop would be getting these inferior versions like the PlayStation Classic that came out. Even here in the US, a lot of the ROMs were PAL ROMs, which was terrible and pissed a lot of people off. That was just a really terrible product all around, that being one reason. But basically, Nintendo tweeted today, the day that we're recording this, that there will be a toggleable option to choose between the PAL and NTSC releases. So you won't be forced to play inferior versions of these N64 games on your modern TVs, which are obviously not 50 hertz sets these days. So that's a really good thing for our friends across the pond who want to play these games. And I'm excited about that. And I think just more options in general is always a good thing. And having these things toggleable is a really good precedent going forward. And honestly, I'd like to see that here in the West as well. I think having European versions that you could toggle to for people that might not speak English here is great.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see that. Yeah.
If you grew up in Europe and you moved to the United States and you want to play it how you remember it, that makes sense. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
I want to play it slower.
Yeah. Playing Ocarina of Time, you're like, why is this game so fast?
Yeah, exactly. This is master mode, baby.
Well, thank you for that explanation. That's what I thought, but I didn't have the quite the words to explain it. I appreciate it.
No worries. If anyone else ever needs to know about PAL versus NTSC, just hit me up at twitter.com/modelofiji.
One of the games that's been rumored, I think we've even talked about on the podcast, as allegedly coming to the Switch, is Grand Theft Auto Trilogy. And that was officially announced that it is coming to the Switch sometime later this year. So I assume around holiday. Who knows? Maybe it could be tomorrow, right?
Also, the official title of this game is Grand Theft Auto: The Trilogy, the Definitive Edition.
Well, that's maybe one too many of these.
That's too many of these.
/ Echoes of an Elusive Age.
The echoes of the elusive age. Featuring the Knuckles. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah. Anybody excited about this or don't care? Or?
Totally. Yeah, I'm excited about this. I mean, these are all great games that are easy to emulate, and easy to get your hands on Steam or whatever for really cheap. But this is the first time since the DS that we've since Chinatown Wars that we've actually had a Grand Theft Auto game on a Nintendo console. So that's really hype. And these games are fantastic. And I feel like these games like made open world games what they are today. And going back and playing them with enhanced gameplay and new visuals, I think is going to be really nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Very nice.
Excited too. They're fun games. I like San Andreas because that's the first game I was able to buy, first rated M game I was able to buy without having to get someone else to get it for me. So
yeah,
it was good memories. I also never beat it because my PS2 broke. So I'm looking forward to revisiting that.
Yeah, it's a fantastic game.
Did y'all hear anything about the songs that'll be featured in any three of these games?
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
I would not expect all of them to come back.
Yeah, me either.
Especially in Vice City.
Yeah. Vice City soundtrack is so lit. I love that soundtrack so much.
I mean, it can be done though. It's like the Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1+2. Like they did their fucking work on that. I mean, those games, you could argue that the soundtracks to those games are just as important as all the rest of the game put together on those games. So it makes sense that they really put in the work to try to get all that licensing again. But I think if anybody could do it, it's a company with really deep pockets like Take-Two. So we'll see if they either care or are able to get the licensing.
So our next news item is, I think, is a really interesting one. IDOS is a developer. They are the developers of the upcoming Guardians of the Galaxy game, and they've done some work on the Deus Ex franchise in the past, and they have announced that they are moving to a 4-day work week. There's been a lot of discussion broadly, culturally, around work hours and 4-day work week and stuff. It's really interesting to see a big video game developer switch this for lots of reasons, notably that they are owned by Square Enix. And so it's not like they're just in a little independent studio that can do whatever they want. And there are other Square Enix, studios like Crystal Dynamics and other places that aren't moving to a 4-day work week. And I wonder how that feels for people in those other places too.
And this is just IDOS Montreal, right?
Yes, IDOS Montreal.
Yeah.
One addition. It's also IDOS Sherbrooke, which is another Canadian-based IDOS.
Okay, gotcha.
building.
Gotcha. Thanks. Thank you for that. But yeah, I mean, I think that what you just said, Patrick, is what's going on. I think that Square Enix has probably heard from a lot of their workers that this is something that they want to do, and they're using IDOS Montreal and Sherbrooke as kind of test markets, as it were, or whatever it tests, to see if productivity still holds true, with reduced hours. Did they say if they're doing 8-hour workdays or 10-hour work
No,
days?
it's a 32-hour work week, I believe. My
Very
understanding is they talked about the I guess it's like I don't know if he's the CEO or what his official title is, but the head of the studio, David Anfosi, I don't know how you say his name. There's a quote in this IGN article that's interesting. He's like, the idea is not to condense the working hours into 4 days, but rather just review our way of doing things and our quality time invested. So it's going to be a 32-hour work week and not change anybody's salaries or anything like that. Just super cool. I think this, like getting into, I think that just made, as somebody who worked in an office for 18 years, like I didn't work 40 hours a week in that office.
Nobody does.
Nobody does. I mean, if you're out, certain, if you're on a factory and people are, and if you don't work, shit falls apart, then maybe, there's definitely jobs where people have to work 40 hours. But when you're sitting in front of a computer, you're not. And I mean, I was more productive working at home in different hours. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm getting kind of off of the main top, or maybe not, but like, I think there's a lot of usefulness in reimagining this, and I hope it's a success for them.
Yeah.
There's a big shift that's happening in the tech sphere,
Yes.
and we're post-COVID
in work, just in general.
work generally, and like people experience COVID, and like friends and family are dying. They're like, I need to stop working as much because I'm not happy. And so they're asking their employers for flexible work schedules. And hopefully this is the start of something good. If this is successful for Eidos Montreal, maybe it rolls out to the rest of Square. But if it's not successful, it's going to be really hard to shift from a 32-hour work week to back to
the 40.
Yeah, like once you give something, it's really hard to take it away.
Yeah. Well, maybe that's what they're banking on. It's just like, okay, cool. So now everybody work your fucking ass off, man. Yeah. Like, yeah, everybody get your shit done. No, but it's, I mean, you know, a lot of indie studios have been doing this for a while. I read recently from a studio that I forget exactly who it was, but it's one of these bigger
the Bug Snacks developer, Young Horses, apparently has that same model.
Maybe it was them, but they were saying, yeah, it works great. If anybody has any questions about it, hit me up. We work 32 hours a week and we get all our shit done and we hit all our deadlines. And, you know, I just think, I think you hit it on the head, Matt, when you said this is a post-COVID thing. I think people are reassessing how they want to spend the majority of their lives. You know, if you work 40 hours a week, you know, going to and from work, you know, fucking thinking about work when it's done, having to answer emails and shit, like, you know, getting home, then having to take care of your kids or whatever. Like, how much then free time do you really have? How much are you just like living for your job? I think that these are good questions that we're all asking ourselves after COVID and how important that is to us in this world. And I love seeing this stuff happen. And I hope that this happens. You know, I hope that this has a ripple effect through a lot of different industry.
Yeah. I mean, I was planning to quit my job and change careers pre-COVID, but it definitely made me rethink everything too, going through all that. And like where I'm at now is definitely like, I don't want to go work somewhere 40 hours, drive there every day, you know, like I'm just not going to do that. You know, I mean,
we spend a third of our lives working with people that we kind of know, but also don't know.
Yeah.
This is like all I think about of like, how am I spending my time? Who am I spending it with? And like at work, working less sounds great across the board. Spending it with people doing good work is important, but spending the time with other people where you're not only like creating, you're just being with people.
I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I apologize, but I can't speak to what working a 32-hour work week, 4-day work week is like exactly. But like when COVID hit and my son was at home and my wife was at home and we were all working and trying to juggle those things, I definitely was working harder when I actually worked. And I feel like that I feel like I probably worked more than 32 hours a week, but like there's something to be said for you put off stuff until you have to do it. And when you're sitting in an office, you may not need to be doing something right now. And so, you know, it's like, I really hope this works for them and for everybody that's experimenting with this, because I think it will. I think it will, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. I just think it's cool it's happening in a video game company.
Yeah.
There's been all this talk about crunch and working ridiculous hours. Like, it's pretty neat to see that happening in a video game company that's pretty big.
Totally.
And then Eidos Montreal announced that Sora is coming to Tomb Raider.
Oh, good. We're in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I think video games are actually a really good place to try this out. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you know, that's working towards the completion of a project at the end of the day. And it's not like, hey, every single week we have to have like X thing completed you know what I mean? It's like you're trying, I mean, obviously you have internal milestones and shit, but it's like something where, you know, release dates can be somewhat flexible and based on the amount of work that is needed, I think is a good industry in which to try out this new method. And so I really hope, like I said, I hope it takes off. I think a lot of people will find that, you know, I think people will want to work more as well when there are less days of the week that you're having to do it.
Totally. And it's not, if we're being like, this isn't the scope of this podcast and I'll shut up after this, but like, it's not like 40 hours is some magic number, right? Like the only reason we have this as our standard is because it used to be more and there was unionization and pushes for it to be less. And because Henry Ford realized that people couldn't work more than that and they weren't as productive. And then that's the number that kind of like they landed on, right? It's not like some.
And nothing has changed in the world since then.
Right. Or it was right then and it's right now, what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a Henry Ford podcast now.
Oh, no.
Let's tackle the Second Amendment next. I think that would be a good one for us to.
All right, we'll move on unless anybody else wants to throw in a final piece. Does anybody? No? Okay. So now I think we're getting into some of the releases that have just happened. The Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl game just came out this past week since our last episode. I have not purchased or tried this game. I know, Matthew, you have. I don't know about David or Jay. Matthew, do you want to give some thoughts? And Jay's nodding, so maybe Matthew and Jay.
Jay, please, you go first.
Okay. I did get it, and I wouldn't say it's like, oh, Smash needs to watch out, anything like that. But for Smash Clone, it's really neat. It's got I do like the fighting mechanics a lot, even though there's some stuff that like my brain can't translate from Smash to this. My main thing, and I hope it's popular enough to where this happens, it just needs like some polishing. We've all talked about the voice acting that's not there, like the generic music kind of thing. And I've been seeing some pretty great memes over the hitboxes being like here and here. And so I think once they start kind of doing that, I think it's going to turn into something like really fun down the line.
They have said they're going to do some patches, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with all those sentiments. It's really good for being a Smash clone. I mean, SpongeBob is in it. What's not to love? But it does feel a little bit. David is shaking his head. He's like,
David just rolled his eyes.
Whoa, come on,
big time.
Well, yeah,
he's not a SpongeBob.
I've never seen David.
No, I think SpongeBob is fine.
I've never seen David assume boomer energy than you did right now. But it is what it is. It's a $40 Smash clone, and it is unpolished. It needs sound effects and it needs some unique music and some unique sound effects in order to like really nail it home. I would say, to use really another baseball metaphor, it's like, I don't know, it's a second base. You get to second base, but that's it.
Yeah. I don't know. I just have not understood what the hype was for this game this whole time. I mean, I get that people are nostalgic for this shit, but it's like, why didn't people then go out in droves to get Nickelodeon Kart Racer when that came out, when the 3 versions of that came out? I mean, I guess if they made 3 versions of it, I guess it
was there a Nickelodeon Kart Racer?
Yeah, there are multiple and they're on the Switch. And it's like that didn't fucking light the world on fire. It's like these tie-in Nickelodeon games have been ripping off Nintendo games the whole time, and they're always mid to low quality. And I think that this game is the same as Brawl Out, you know what I mean? Which, everybody got hyped for Brawl Out too. And then Brawl Out was just doesn't feel quite like Smash. And all the things that people had about Brawl Out, they're like, man, this is great. Wish it was a little bit more like Smash. And that's exactly what I'm hearing with Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. It's like, yo, stop getting, okay. If you're enjoying the game, I'm so sorry. And I know I sound like a boomer right now. I sound like Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. But what I'm trying to say is I just don't know why people got so hyped for it. And now they're slightly disappointed. It's like, yes, of course. It's a tie-in Nickelodeon game. It's not going to be the second coming of Christ. I just think people's hype got way out of hand for this.
But it could be. Christ could be.
It will
back.
never be. It will never be, Matt. It will never be Smash. It will never be as good as Smash.
No, sometimes you need your off-brand cereal, your off-brand toasted pastries.
Yeah. I'm sorry I shouted.
Yeah.
It's okay. No, I kind of agree with you, David, because whenever I saw the Nickelodeon carts, I was just like, whatever. And then when I first heard about this, I was like, whatever. But then they kept showing these videos and I was like, okay.
It just felt like a meme to me. The whole thing feels like a meme to me and not like a real game.
I think they did good marketing and good like rollout of releasing characters because everybody likes, not everybody, but a lot of people like Nintendo or Nickelodeon cartoons, and it's like you're hoping that your favorite character is going to get in, and so it created a lot of hype and expectation.
Yeah. Anyway, maybe I'll try it.
I love riding the hype train. That's what I was on board. This might be an okay game, but riding the hype train is super fun.
Yeah. I'm going to hop into my Ford F-150 and drive over to the bingo parlor if anybody needs me to pick anything up.
Maybe it's that driving characters in carts feels less like controlling the character too. I don't know. I'm just riffing here than like actually. Anyway, all right, we'll move on. So we're going to talk a little bit about Metroid Dread right now, and then we're going to talk about that in the main topic too. But so news outlets have been kind of reporting about the UK sales of this game, and it's kind of changed actually since I initially read these articles. They've revised how they're framing this. But gamesindustry.biz has been the one reporting on this. They initially said that it was like the fastest selling Metroid game in the United Kingdom. So we're talking about UK sales right now. But I guess Metroid Prime was faster selling
by like 1,000 units. I believe. Yeah.
So they have,
and that's also not counting digital
sales. So probably it still would beat it. Yeah, because Nintendo keeps their digital sales on lockdown. So either way, it sounds like this is the highest grossing launch Metroid game, and definitely like the fastest selling 2D Metroid game in the UK. I think we're going to hear a lot more news items like this. Probably next week we'll be reporting that it's the fastest selling Metroid game in Japan or wherever, we'll probably be seeing this stuff because I expect it just seems like everybody's buying this game.
If this game by the end of this month is not the highest selling Metroid game of all time, I will buy a Game Boy Micro on eBay and shove it up my ass.
Oh no!
Wow. You still haven't eaten that.
Hey, you don't know that. Have you seen my Game Boy Advance SP NES edition since I made that promise? That's my question.
I haven't seen it personally.
No, I haven't. I guess.
No, but straight up, like this game, I think this will be the highest selling Metroid game of all time.
Including Prime games and stuff.
I think so. Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge hill. It's not a huge hill to climb. What? It's like 3.6 million, something like that.
You got the Nintendo Switch install base.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got the Switch install base, and it's like games that sell a lot of units that I'm really hyped for, and the internet is really hyped for. I'll go out on release day and like check my friends list, and it won't be like there'll be like a couple people playing them. The other day, I went and checked on my Switch. There was like 12 people playing Metroid Dread all at once. And that doesn't happen except for like, that reminded me of like Animal Crossing when it was like that came out. It was just everybody was playing that fucking game. So it's like,
this feels big.
If that's not like a good metric to measure by, but it's just
there's a third game, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl.
That's not true. That's just not true. It's just been you and Jay. And
anecdotally, it's not true.
Now, Game Mill Entertainment is coming out with a Metroid Dread SpongeBob Metroidvania.
Samus coming to Nickelodeon All-Stars.
No,
if Dread sells less than Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, I will shove a GameCube in that.
That's a better promise.
Yeah.
The other interesting Metroid Dread news that's been happening this week is that I apparently put the wrong link in here. That it's been already being emulated on PC, and that's generated a lot of debate and discussion about piracy and because it's such a new game, and whether you should emulate this game on PC if you don't have a Switch, or buy the game and then emulate it or whatever. So I don't know how y'all feel about that. I don't know. We live in a capitalist society. I don't know the answers here, but like a lot of people have been like, stating that that's wrong to emulate a game that's accessible and new and that kind of thing. And I can see that argument. Any thoughts on this? Michael Domingue, we're pinging you right now.
Give him a call.
Let's get Dodo from the future on here. I think, I think people got. I mean, we got to talk about that Kotaku article, right? Because that's
yeah.
where
Everybody was shitting on Kotaku, right? Yeah,
and pretty much rightfully so. I think it's like and mainly because at the end of the thing they were like, well, thank God for pirates and thank God for people doing this, and it's like, isn't it wonderful and great? And you can go do this right now using this emulator and all that kind of stuff, and it's. And it's not like that stuff doesn't exist online. It's just Kotaku, one of the main kind of video game journalism sites. It just kind of read like, edgelord Kotaku trying to do their thing. You know what I mean? And I do think it was a little bit wrong. And I think people were mainly upset about it because Metroid fans need this game to do good. You know what I mean? We need this game to sell. We want any barrier to stop this game from being the highest selling Metroid game ever. Metroid fans don't want that, right? So I think that's why there was the main amount of uproar on it, other than just Kotaku being edgelords. But it's like, I don't know. Don't do it. I mean, I guess if you buy the game and you have a strong enough PC to do it, go ahead. But it's like, I'm sure it looks better in 4K than it does in 720p on the Switch, or 900p docked or whatever. But I think it's one thing to write an article about like all the ways that you can like get access to Fusion or Zero Mission, but putting it out for day one definitely seems a little problematic to me.
Agreed. I think that's a good take.
That's kind of where I am too. It's just like it just came out. Maybe in like 2 years I'd be like, okay, whatever. But like it just came out. Like let's hold off a bit.
There's also the whole argument of like, people who might not be, there's the argument of piracy. The argument of piracy has always been like, well, I wasn't gonna buy this anyway, so it's not missing out on a sale by me pirating it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was never going to play this unless I pirated it, which is kind of like you could go around in circles with that kind of logic. But it's also like, man, I just don't think you can have that argument with something like this, because if you have a PC that can play Metroid Dread in 4K, like you can afford the fucking game. You know what I mean? Like that's an expensive PC, like that's a lifestyle that you've picked.
Yeah. What if all of those things are true? What if you own a Switch and you bought Dread? Are you ethically okay to play Metroid Dread on the Yuzu emulator?
I think so. Yeah.
That seems fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's like
stamp it for approval.
Yeah. I mean, Switch Headz says yes.
Another thing though that people had like with issues with the Kotaku article is they were saying like, it's as easy as just like having a computer. You know what I mean? But like the amount of people that can actually make game backups from a game that they own using hardware is very, very low, because you need a certain kind of Switch, and then the number of people that would actually be able to do that is even smaller than that, who have the technical acumen to do such a thing. So it's basically, when they're saying this, it's basically being like, find the ISO or find the file online on steal it is what they were saying. That's why people were pissed off.
I finally just fixed the article, the link in our show notes that was broken, which I apologize to everybody here for. But like
the audience would never know this, Patrick.
No, but here's why I'm saying it, because they apparently put an update at the very end of it that says like, we're sorry, like that other people have interpreted this to believe that we're suggesting they illegally download it, but we believe our readers are intelligent adults capable of making their own decisions. It's kind of a non-apology apology.
Yeah. The one thing you're never supposed to do is overestimate gamers. Also, that reads like that South Park episode where the fucking like oil baron is like rubbing his nipples. He's like, "We're sorry." Like, they got their fucking clicks already, so now they're apologizing.
We're sorry. Everybody's here reading this article.
Exactly.
All right, we'll move on because we're going to talk a lot about Dread soon. But our last news item is going to be about the OLED, and we're going to be given our opinions and thoughts so far about that. Though me personally, I won't be very much because I did not get my OLED, unfortunately.
Yeah. What happened? What happened there, man? Because I've been hearing some other stuff about that.
Yeah. So back on, was it July pre-order hell 2 days in a row, whatever that was, of trying to get the Steam Deck and this. I feel burned by both of those experiences now, especially. So yeah, I got 2 pre-orders in for the OLED. I got one through GameStop and one through Walmart. I was trying to get it through whatever retailers had all these tabs open, and those worked. So I was like, I'm good. The Walmart one was set for delivery, but so I was, I'll cancel one of these, but then they just kept dropping the price because I got the red and blue, and till it was $50 off. And I was like, well, I'll cancel this GameStop one. I don't need this on day one. It says it's going to ship to me on day one, so I'll get it a few days late. No big deal. And still no big deal, but I didn't get it. It never updated. Walmart does not have great customer service. I chatted with a bot and got some emails that say, let's wait and see what happens and stuff like that, basically. And now it just says delayed. So
I think RGT85 is a YouTuber, gaming YouTuber, also got his pre-order through Walmart and also never got his either. So I think there's some issue. It's one of those things where it's like, man, if it feels a little too good to be true, it probably is.
Them slashing that $50 off.
Yeah. I have no idea what happened there, but something was fucked up with Walmart's back end, and it was those batches that probably never got sent out or whatever. But that's a bummer.
Yeah, it's first world problem, and I am totally okay with
Listen, you are the host of a Nintendo podcast, and you don't have the OLED yet.
Did you tell the bot that you're the host of a Nintendo podcast?
You listen to Switch Headz?
I said Super Switch Headz in this bot. Well, that's exactly my point, though, David. Right? It's like, number one, I have 2 Switches. Like, I'm already living luxuriously. Like, I don't need this, and then I'm not going to be the person that like calls Walmart and yells at some poor customer service.
Are you sure? Look at the screen, man. It's so beautiful. Don't you need this right now? Oh, yeah. Look how nice it shows up on cam.
I will get one.
Really nice on camera. Jeez.
Yeah.
But how about we hear from the folks that actually got one?
Yeah. So I got one. We both got it at Best Buy, right? We did not have our tailgate party, unfortunately, but I did go with Emma, resident Switch Head, in the Discord to go pick it up. I fucking love this thing, man. It's completely reinvigorated my enjoyment in playing handheld mode. Don't have the best eyes in the world. Contrary to popular belief.
No, that's not true, David. You have the best eyes.
And so it's like the marginally bigger screen and the higher contrast of the OLED screen make games a lot easier for me to see, and just makes it a more pleasant gaming experience for me playing these games in handheld. Not that it was ever like tremendously difficult, but it's just a more pleasurable experience. The build quality feels really, really nice as well. The kickstand is absolutely fantastic. I love that I could actually use the kickstand now, or have like any use case for it at the moment. Yeah, I absolutely love this thing. Matt, what do you think about the OLED so far?
Everything that you said and a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think the contrast between the OLED technology, which allows the pixels to turn completely off, so you have the really deep blacks in comparison to like all of the colorful games that are on Nintendo Switch, like playing Dread or playing Game Mill Entertainment's Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl. I'm not going to let this down. All colorful games look so great on the Nintendo Switch OLED version.
Do you keep it in vivid mode or standard mode?
I didn't even know you could change.
Yeah, it's like, what are y'all talking about?
What's the difference?
So what they've added a new mode just for the OLED, and it's like a graphics display mode, and it's basically like how like when you buy an OLED TV or you see them in stores, they have the vivid option turned on by default, and it basically just increases the saturation and makes the colors pop a little bit more. At the same time, though, that's not how the games are meant to be. That's not how the games were designed, right? And so for the first like few days, I had vivid mode turned on, and I actually was like, this is pretty fucking great. Like, man, the colors are just jumping off the screen. Yeah, so vivid, so colorful. Now I actually have it turned off, And I think that it looks a bit, man, mine shows up great on the screen. Yours is having trouble. Yeah, Tetris effect connected. Anyway, so we're just really alienating our audio listeners right now. Yeah. But so basically, yeah. So I have it turned on to standard right now, which I think is the best way to do it because it's like the contrast is still really good. And one of the best things about an OLED display is the color accuracy. You know what I mean? So it's like having it in standard mode doesn't make it look any more dull. It just makes it look like still really crisp. So I think standard is the way to go personally between the two options. But I mean, that's to each their own. I know a lot of people who much prefer the Vivid option. So,
yeah. Well, a couple of things about the OLED model. One is that Nintendo has been doing this Ask the Developer series on their website about the OLED model, asking questions about the people who helped build it and that kind of thing. And one thing that's kind of jumped out to a lot of news outlets is they ask, so let's be honest, this is like Nintendo asking Nintendo questions. Like so these are like, it's not like these are hard hitting journalism.
Hours Furukawa.
But like they talked about the Joy-Cons, and one of the questions was like, were there any improvements to the Joy-Cons? And in this interview, one of the hardware designers, I don't let's see if I can look, Yamashita, I don't know how you say his name exactly, Toru Yamashita, mentioned that they've constantly been working on revising the Joy-Cons and making them better. We've talked on the podcast about these alleged reports, and we even know that, the very early Joy-Cons had some issues with like, what's the word I'm looking for? They wouldn't go through things or whatever. Then they added the ability to like, have better range and that kind of stuff.
They kind of still have those issues, to be honest.
Gotcha. Yeah. But allegedly, according to this, they've been kind of tweaking the Joy-Con appeal. And they also have this sort of softball question that's really funny to me, where it's like, so you're saying that wear is unavoidable in Joy-Cons? It's really, you should read this interview if you're into Joy-Con drift. It's really kind of interesting. If you follow the Joy-Con drift.
Really passionate about that drift.
If you're passionate about Joy-Con drift. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. And then I've seen some stuff about this, but I don't know a lot about it because I don't have an OLED. But what's the deal with the screen protector?
Yeah. So sorry, I was playing Tetris Effect Connected.
You weren't listening wrapped to my discussion about the
Hey,
Joy-Con?
there are a couple games that I can multitask during. Tetris is one of them. Okay, I was listening to everything you were saying.
I will say that that's true, having watched you stream.
Yeah, Tetris. It's one of the few games I can do that for. Metroid Dread, not great at chatting with the audience during that game. But so yeah, the OLED model basically has built in on it. I don't know if there's like no way you'll be able to see this on here, but basically even with the naked eye, it's almost impossible to see. There's a very thin film over the screen that a lot of people have been mistaking for like one of those screen protectors that comes on a phone that's really satisfying to peel off and shit like that. Nintendo put out a PSA being like, don't take that off, please. Because basically the way OLED technology works is if the screen shattered, all the OLED technology would just kind of fly everywhere, basically, if the glass shattered, right? It's being kind of held in place by that film. Now, the glass is going to be pretty tight. It actually is a glass front instead of a plastic front like the original Switch is. So it should be a lot stronger, but it's basically like they're like, don't take that off, because the whole point of that is if the glass does break, that film will keep it from just flying off of your Switch. So that's just a little bit of a PSA there.
And you can put your own screen protector over that if you
absolutely desire. Yeah. And this shouldn't be seen as a replacement for something like that. It's like, oh, Nintendo like included a tempered glass screen protector. It's like definitely, this could still shatter. It's probably going to be stronger than the original Switch was, but it's probably worth getting some tempered glass or something that you could put on top of it.
Yeah, it's called an anti-scattering film.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just can't wait for you to get yours, Patrick.
It's probably going to be a while, right? Like, does anybody have any pulse on OLED Switch availability? Like,
it's not been too bad. That you could get them day one,
right? Like, you could go into stores and get them.
Yeah, I had a coworker. I mean, he wasn't able to get it day one, but I think he was able to put in like an order to get it like this Friday. So it seems better than expected.
I'm not the kind of person that's like going to hassle Walmart about this. Like I can't. Like, you know what I mean?
I feel you there.
Like, number one, I hate
Embrace
Walmart.
it, dude. Embrace it. If you can be a Karen to anyone, it's the poor, underpaid employees of Walmart.
Like the Indian, like. So, like, I don't know. I'm just gonna ride this out for a little bit longer and see what happens. And then if it really is available everywhere, then maybe I'll just buy one somewhere else. But we'll see. Because the $50 off, man, I can't. Like, I don't know what Walmart's doing, but like, I'll take it if they give it to me.
Yeah. Question to Matt. Now that you've been playing with the OLED over the weekend, as someone who owned a Switch already, do you think it was worth dropping $350 additional dollars?
I don't know. This is what I keep on coming back to. I don't know. I play my Switch. Lately, I've been playing it more on the television. I played Dread on the television. I've been playing like Tony Hawk on TV. And since COVID, I've primarily been playing it while connected to the TV, where that like the first couple of years I was playing it in handheld mode. So I think it'll take some time to adjust some, maybe if, like social events will cause me to like bring my Switch while I'm playing it in handheld mode more. I don't know. It's really hard to say. See if my behaviors change.
I have a question for y'all. Does your OLED model fit into the if you have a carrying case?
Yes.
Or is it that you previously had? Is it not, the dimensions aren't big enough change to make a difference there?
It doesn't fit into my Satisfy grip. And by that, I mean it does, but not in a way that I'm comfortable doing. Does that make sense? It's like really scrunched in there to the point where I'm like, is this fucking up the rails on my Joy-Cons or what? You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of more pressure on it. Satisfy is releasing new stuff, and I think a lot of people are making new peripherals. But as far as my case is concerned, the like 1 millimeter difference in size is completely negligible because there was already a little bit of wiggle room in there anyway.
Yep, gotcha. Same. My OLED model works fine in my case.
I was just curious. That made me think of that, Matt. You talking about that too? Because like I haven't, with COVID, I don't go out as much and take my Switch as many places. Like I used to take it often to places, but for the first time in a while, I had to dig out my case today because I wanted to take it somewhere. And I was like, where the fuck is my Switch case?
Yeah.
And will this actually fit the OLED if I get it? And yeah.
I mean, for me, I'm not too worried, man. And it's like, and to answer the question that I asked Matt, like I think it's worth the money that I've put down on it now. I think I might be a special use case though, so I wouldn't say that I speak for everybody on that. But it's like I had a V1 Switch, right? It's the original batch. It wasn't day one, but it was within the first year, right? So I have a Switch that can be modified. Right. And so that's what I plan to do. And I've still got that Switch. I'm going to keep that Switch. I want to hack the shit out of it. I've got all my peripherals for it. That'll primarily be a handheld system. So I'm probably just going to keep that Satisfy grip on it 100% of the time. You know what I mean? And that'll just be that Switch. Right now, because it's a V1 Switch, it has like half the battery life of this. You know what I mean? Like when the V2 Switch came out, it had the Marico chip inside, which was already a great, big, new, better version of the Switch with a way beefier battery life. Now, I skipped on that. And because I skipped that and I felt like I didn't need it, this feels like a double upgrade to me. You know what I mean? Like I was playing Metroid Dread for like 3 hours the other night and my Switch was down to like 67% battery. And I was like, that has never been the case for me ever with a game. You know what I mean? And so that alone feels really, really nice. And it's like, and I do play in handheld a lot, like I've basically been splitting Dread 3 ways right now where I'll stream a third on my computer monitor, a third I've been playing on my TV, and then the other third I play handheld. And I think handheld has been my favorite way to play that game, to be honest, just because the colors are incredible. And, 2D Metroid feels good on a handheld. I like playing 2D Metroid like that. So yeah, I think if you're like me, you've got an original Switch and you're looking to upgrade, I would say it's a no-brainer, especially if you play handheld. But I would never begrudge anybody for not upgrading because they play mostly in TV mode.
It's kind of my situation. I also got the Animal Crossing Switch, which is the second version or whatever.
America Switch, yeah.
So I was like, I'm gonna go to Best Buy, and I just want to see it in my hands, see if that changes my mind. But right now, I'm just gonna hold off.
Yeah. Well, you'll get FOMO soon enough when we all start having in-person Switch events. Yeah.
I have a tinfoil hat theory. I didn't think about this when I saw the white Nintendo Switch, but the white that's on the OLED model of Nintendo Switch is very similar to the white on the PlayStation 5. Mm-hmm. So I think there is tinfoil hat theory is that this white exists purely for those who might have Nintendo Switch as a second console, and maybe they have a PlayStation 5 as their main living room device.
Yeah, it'd probably look really good next to that. Yeah,
that's an interesting theory. That like Nintendo's like, this will sell PlayStation owners on buying a Switch to go with it.
Grandparents will think this is a PS5.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And there's always like a switch between like the colors of consoles. It goes from like sometimes white devices to black to white to black. And then you have like your indigos every now and again. But I think we're in this switch where maybe we're in this change, not switch. Right. We're in this change where we're seeing a lot of white devices.
I will say I have these like third-party Joy-Cons that I bought for like, I don't know, $20-$30. I forget what they're called. But you know, they've got kind of grips on them. And I've been playing Dread in handheld mode with these on. And so you can see it's actually got grips attached. With these attached, this actually kind of feels like a Switch Pro. I will say that. And that's, I would say that's a really good way to do it. Now, I don't know if I can go back. But I do also like those white Joy-Cons, so I'm sure I'll go back at some point.
All right, anything else on the OLED?
It's got a LAN port.
Yeah. I could talk about it for a while. I mean, it's got enhanced audio too, which sounds fine. I wish it was louder. I think that's one of my main gripes with the Switch is that I think it's too quiet. So that's kind of a bummer. But and it has a LAN port that I've not used and probably won't. Don't hate me. I have fine internet, so I don't need it. But yeah. Anyway, we should probably just stop. We can talk about this forever.
We should stop.
Yeah.
We're gonna then take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna be talking all about Metroid Dread. All right, so this week we are talking about Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread just released this past Friday. This is the first new 2D Metroid in almost 20 years. So it's a big deal. And it's like we talked about in the news section, seems to be selling well and, you know, in the zeitgeist, right? We did a pretty recent episode about, once this game was announced, about sort of the lore of Metroid, where we kind of covered all this stuff. But this is the 5th 2D Metroid. There's also the trilogy of Prime games and the 4th one coming at some time in the future. I mean, I don't know how much y'all want to talk about the history. You know, the first one came out in 86 and the last 2D one came out, what was it, 2002, I guess that would be, right? So there was the NES one, the Game Boy one, the SNES, and was it Game Boy Advance, I guess, that that Fusion came out on.
That's great.
So, and they all follow kind of a storyline. And again, go back and listen to our lore episode. I think we really dug into all that stuff. All that stuff there. So maybe we'll just move on unless there's anything y'all want to mention in the history.
If you want to know about that, listen to that episode we did with Jordan Willis. That was a fascinating episode.
Long story short, Samus is the bounty hunter. She wants to hunt Metroids and kills all the Metroids. And we're on a new planet.
We are.
No car required.
Didn't even have to get out of the car. Just got out of the spaceship.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, before we get into like sort of nitty gritty different parts of it, just sort of a general thoughts on Metroid Dread. I mean, how are we feeling about this game? Matt's already beaten it.
This is the most accessible Metroid game. The quality of life enhancements, the movement is slick. All the power-ups feel potent and strong, and it makes you make you feel like a strong character as a player. If this is the first time, maybe you're listening right now, the first time you've ever played a Metroid game, this is a great experience. It does. It just enhances the whole Metroid experience. It adds to some of the lore and some of the traditions of what makes a great Metroid game, from the music to the gameplay to the power-ups, all of that. I'm just really excited if this is the first time anyone has ever played a Metroid game.
Which I'm sure is going to be true for a lot of people.
Yeah. And certainly if you haven't gotten the game yet, because you're like, oh, I kind of think I should play the earlier games beforehand, you really don't need to. I think going in and playing Dread for your first Metroid game and then going back, like if you enjoyed this, I think that's excellent, because it means you now have like, 4, depending on how you want to count the remakes, you've got like 4 great games that play just like this one, that are still great in their own ways, to look forward to as well. I agree with you, Matt. I think that this is the best that 2D Metroid has ever felt. Just controlling Samus is just running around feels so good, and like sliding into a morph ball, into popping out of a bomb and then doing jumps and all this kind of stuff. It just like feels so spectacular to play. And I think that the environments have really great design. I'm not super far into the game. Maybe I'm like halfway through, maybe a little bit less than halfway through. Kind of don't want to say exactly where I am in case people haven't played so far, because I really don't want to spoil anything. But from where I'm at already, there's a really great amount of variety in the stage designs and the different biomes and stuff like that. And I'm loving this game so much. And the Emmy zones, which I heard some criticism about online, I really enjoy. I think the whole process of running away from an Emmy or hiding and trying to avoid them that way, or even taking them on whenever you get the Omega Cannon, all feels really, really well done and is a very good addition to the gameplay, I think.
I love it so much. I've maybe 3 hours in, but man, just everything about it just feels so smooth, refined. I definitely agree. If you've never played one, this is pretty good one to start. Weird comparison for me off the top of my head. I'm thinking of Fire Emblem, kind of the same thing I heard. If that's your first one, Three Houses was a great start. So kind of hoping for equal success for Dread.
Yeah, David, I think it was you that shared this in the Discord. It wasn't your quote, but somebody said this is the Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, or Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze of Metroid games. And I think that's true, right? It's not really insanely innovative. It doesn't change the formula, but it's perfected the formula.
Yeah. Especially when you compare Samus Returns to Donkey Kong Country Returns on the Wii, right? That game was also great. I think Samus Returns is also great, but I think this just takes all the issues that were present in Samus Returns, which there weren't that many, but there were quality, every single possible quality of life improvement Mercury Steam could have done in between Samus Returns for the 3DS and this game, they've made. You know what I mean? And it just feels better in every possible way than that game. And it's, got the great, Return of Samus, Metroid 2, also just has some game design issues. You know what I mean? That if you're remaking that game, you can't really avoid just because of the way the game is made, right? Not a bad game, but it's they were able to really play in the sandbox here and come up with their own structure and their own kind of game. And it feels so much more Super Metroid than it does Metroid 2 or Fusion or anything like that. A great return to form for the series.
Yeah. I mean, everybody said, it's got super tight controls. It looks great. The graphics are amazing. I think that Metroid spawned or helped to spawn the genre of Metroidvanias, in which, are known for these sort of exploration and upgrades. And I think this game has that in a really great quality. Like Matt said, the upgrades make you feel powerful, which good Metroidvania should do. And it's tough, like a lot of Metroidvanias, but it's also kind of friendly to, in some ways. I don't know. I think it strikes a great balance. Sort of my opinion. Well, let's start maybe with, you mentioned the Emmy zones. I think that's a great place for us to start. Kind of dig into the gameplay, talk about the controls and and that stuff too. But like the Emmy zones and the Emmy mechanic of having these enemies and it being a big part of it, kind of features into the name too. I think this game really does create a sense of anxiety in me. Like I think I said this on the Discord, the Emmy music that plays when they're near you and when they've located you kind of feels to me a lot like the Guardian music when you're first playing Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Of that like fear that sets in as soon as you hear that beep, 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 boop, beep, boop.
Yeah. Or just its little chirps,
Yeah.
Like anytime I hear his chirps, I'm like, fuck, he's in the same room as I am right now, and I just like my butthole clenches up, and it's like, yeah. Like if anyone watches me stream this game, like anytime I'm being chased by an enemy, I'm just like, fuck.
So we're not being too inside baseball. I guess we should say that the Emmys are like an enemy you encounter in this game and that they're within certain areas and they're indestructible at first, kind of, and so you have to just run from them. Really cool looking, interesting robots that chase after you in the game. I guess we should say. I should have said that up top, but such a big part of the game. And any other thoughts on Emmys or encountering them? Or
that's probably my favorite part of the game so far. It's trying to remember what game. Yeah, the comparison that comes to my mind, which I know like Resident Evil 3 is kind of more famous for this.
Nemesis.
Yeah, but it's that whole aspect of, even though it's not the whole map, those sections of, fuck, they could be anywhere, and I need to figure out how to hide. And so it reminded me a lot of a faster paced clock tower for Super Nintendo, because that's kind of a similar thing. It's much slower. You see the scissor man, and you're like, fuck, I can't keep exploring. I need to figure out like where to hide, what I can do to distract him, kind of thing. And it's the same thing here. Like my logic kind of changes. Where normally on a Metroid map, I'm like exploring, blah, blah, blah. And then Emmy here. Let me see if I can go do this or hide under here. See if this tool helps. And it doesn't. And it's kind of neat. And another thing that I like too, I don't know if this is for sure or not, but the music that plays, it sounds like the Metroid music, like maybe in a different key or like rearranged or something. But
I think you're right.
Much creepier. And so that adds a lot to it for me. So I love those parts.
Yeah, we have the music that's playing. You have this robot that's chasing you. Then you have like all of the particle effects that are happening in these zones. They have like these fog that are kind of emanating from some of the platforms. And so
film grain and stuff like that whenever the enemy's around.
So it kind of sets this mood to be real spooky.
Yeah. I love that about it. I'm also glad that it's not like Nemesis in Resident Evil 3, because I think that, if the Emmys were following you around the entire map, I think that it would completely take away that kind of explore at your own pace gameplay that Metroid is thrives on, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's great that they're kind of confined to these zones, and it also gives the developers a chance to really build out the Emmy zones in a way to where it's like they can take the little tubes that are closed off until you clear a zone, and then you can go through those with your morph ball or whatever, right? And so like just the way that the Emmy zones are designed is really smart, I think. And then it always gives you like a long area through which you can then attack them once you get the ability to defeat them, right? Within each zone. And so it's like that, I think, is a really masterful point, because you're like running around looking for the longest area that you can like charge your gun at for the longest amount of time. And that just adds to the tension and shit like that. So they did a great job. I think it's a great throwback to the end of Zero Mission as well. Zero Mission like has this great like kind of coda to the game, where you lose your entire suit and you're Zero Samus and space pirates are hunting you and you're suddenly very, very helpless. So it's a lot of stealth and stuff like that, and a lot of space pirates following you from room to room. And you can definitely tell that this is an evolution of that idea from that game.
I think it's you hit on this, David, and it's a natural segue to the level design in this game. Like, I'm a big fan of Metroidvanias, but I haven't played every Metroidvania or anything. I wouldn't claim that. So maybe there's better level design out
why
there.
don't you come back and talk to us when you have played every Metroidvania?
But I love them, and I think playing this game, like thinking about the Emmy zones and how they designed them, and then you have that relief outside of them, but even within them, the sort of the trapdoor closings, the way that this game, one of the reasons I think it's good for beginners into Metroid or into Metroidvanias is because early game, it kind of locks you into areas, like decent sized areas where you can still explore and stuff, but like you can't needlessly backtrack earlier in the game because of the limitations on the upgrades. And I think that's just so smart in the way that they've done it. And you talking about, the Emmys can travel through those little tubes that later you can and stuff like that. It's just, I don't know. I just think that this game has one of the best level designs I've seen in games. Like it's incredible.
Yeah, I think the idea that you get an upgrade and you're immediately like, oh fuck, or you get into a new area and you're like, oh shit, there are like 3 or 4 different ways I could go, right? But the game always funnels you where you need to go, and it doesn't completely cut you off from exploration. And I feel like especially later on as you get upgrades, you can then obviously go back to all those spots, right? But it like does a great job kind of pushing you in the right direction to the point where it's not super overwhelming. That having been said, I am notoriously bad at Metroidvanias, and I have gotten lost in this game.
That's part of the genre though, right?
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
I think that's just part of it. And I mean, it's a downside of it, but it's a positive of it too, right? Like
it depends on how you look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's one of the things about these games is you're likely gonna have to be like, wait, where do I go? Or which,
Yeah. Well, that's where the map comes into it. Maybe that's a good.
Let's talk about that map.
The map.
This game has an incredible map. And I know, David, you have some interesting takes on this, but
I'd love to hear your thoughts first. Yeah. Or you guys.
It's been talked about on our Discord about just like no Metroidvania has ever had a map this detailed, where you can really see like what it doesn't tell you until you have the upgrades, kind of what's required to get into the area. So it just has question marks, but if there's a question mark, you can't do it pretty much. Right.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that's a really fascinating take on a Metroidvania map. It also has this element where if you've been in a room but haven't explored a part of the room, it's dark gray versus light gray. Like, I don't know if y'all have noticed that, but like it can be really helpful once you realize that to be like, oh, there's a huge chunk of that room that's dark gray. I should probably go back there. And then it has lighting up areas. There's just a lot of hints in the map that aren't typical of past Metroidvanias. And I know some people were suggesting this might be a way forward, like that this might be something that is innovative about this game that might be taken into future games.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think, what you all just said just a moment ago, talking about the power-ups where the game leads you to the next step, where it gives you a new power-up. It builds up your confidence by teaching you and showing you, and then finally you as the player using the new power-up in a way. So you feel confident as Samus, but then you get a new power-up and you have to learn all over again. And the map is a great way to lead you into the right direction by showing you, Patrick, as you described, the areas that you've been to but haven't explored yet. It shows which blocks might be a certain type or a special type.
That's amazing. That's an amazing application, showing like where speed blocks are and stuff like that.
Yeah. And so the map is a tool that when you are feeling frustrated and you don't know where to go or what power up to use or what secret to unlock, the map is a tool to kind of help you navigate. It's a map. That's what maps do. They help you navigate the world. But also it helps you navigate the gameplay, and not just from a logistical standpoint, but just like where things are and where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
I love the map. My favorite part about the map, you kind of touched on, is the doors, because that's where I always would get stuck in these games. I remember Fusion, I would look at the map and I'd see like, okay, here's an opening that looks like a door. Then I'd go to it, and it's one I can't even do anything with.
The access code for or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then this one's like, oh, this is like, you need this power up or this power up. And that to me is just like chef kiss. I love
Yeah,
it.
because you would then go away from it and then forget and like at the map and be like, oh wait, I need to go back there.
Yeah.
And be like, fuck,
Right.
that's the same door that I just went to and I couldn't go to. And that's a very typical Metroidvania experience.
I still do that because, like I said, I'm an idiot.
It's a typical
Me too.
Metroidvania experience.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the genre. You know what I mean? That you're gonna run in, and it's that, but it's how good you feel when you solve some of those things.
Right.
That's the like other end of that frustration. Like, and yeah, I don't know. We should talk more about the map. But
I'm not quite as hot on the map as everybody else is, and don't get me wrong, like it's great. I understand all the reasons that it's great. I love that it's hyper detailed, and I love that you can highlight certain map elements and it'll show you on the map where all those other elements are. So it's like, hey, great, I just unlocked the grapple beam or whatever. Let me highlight all grappleable items, you know what I mean? Like on the map, and it'll show me everything, right? Like that's awesome. But it's like, I have a little bit of an issue to whenever I open the map, it's just like, you know, it's just like information overload, you know what I mean? And maybe that's just because I've just come off of playing 4 classic 2D Metroids with much simpler maps. And I got very used to navigating through that simplicity and like learning some of that stuff. But for me, it's all just like laid out all at once and everything is on there, right? And then when you add your own markers, I can barely even tell where my markers are because it's already all the colors are everywhere already. You know what I mean? And so that makes it even more complicated. So I wish that there was a bit of a way for it to present itself as simpler until you then ask for it to show itself to be more complicated. Because I think having all that information, especially when it comes to items you've already picked up, because like items you haven't picked up are like kind of see-through. And then items you've already picked up are like slightly just a little bit more see-through, you know? So it's kind of hard to tell at a glance, like what stuff you actually need. So to me, it's not perfect, but I also am being nitpicky, and I'm only being nitpicky because I think the game is so good already. And clearly Mercury's team is listening to player feedback. You know what I mean? Because they did a lot between their last 2 games.
I think one of the points that you're saying on the map is for the doors, on the map, it'll tell you what the type of the door is and whether you have unlocked it or not by showing question marks. But it most of the time it demonstrates whether you've interacted with it through text. When I think what you're saying is to show some visual representation of whether you as a player interacted with the door. You've either used it or destroyed it or haven't interacted with it in some way. But the way that it tells you, it just says used or destroyed.
Well, yeah, and I mean there is a little bit of a color difference between them, but it's so slight that it's hard to pick up on by just having it at a glance. I just wish there was a way to filter some of the information that I don't need out at any particular point, because I'm just like I said, I'm just overwhelmed by however many fucking sectors there are, and then all the stuff in between. Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm not, what's the dude's name from Rain Man? We're not saying you guys all are, but yeah.
We're spending a lot of time on the map because I think the map is big. I said it wasn't a crazy innovative game, but I think the map is one of the more innovative parts of this game.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of innovation in this game, actually.
Oh, well, I'd love to hear you talk about that. But focusing on the map, I think what I'm hearing you say, David, is that there should be filters on this. And I think we're talking about how this is an accessible Metroid game and it kind of locks you, especially early game, into certain regions. I think for experienced players, they might prefer a less clear map. You know what I mean? And I think that one thing that, we've talked about, maybe this map going forward is going to influence other Metroidvanias to have more interesting, information on maps. But I think the next step would be that filter, right? To be
I think so. Yeah.
I want to see this information, or I want just bare bones map or whatever. Yeah. Because I think, that can be a difficulty setting almost within, within the map. What, while we're talking about it, what are the other innovative things that you think this game's doing?
Well, I think for one, I just like how it plays with the Metroid formula a little bit. Every Metroid game before this pretty much has you landing on a planet, getting out of your ship, and going down into the planet and going deeper and deeper and deeper until you fight the final boss, and then you go back up to the surface during like a big chase or a big countdown, right? And I haven't beaten this game, so I don't know like how it plays out at the end. But I love in this game that it starts you at the bottom, and the whole game is working your way back up to the ship. I think that as far as thematically, I think thematically that makes this game scary. You know what I mean? And it makes you feel even more isolated than you do in other games, right? And I mean, obviously this has stuff that came about in Fusion. Like I love the fact that Adam is in this game, and that you can't, and that because you're underground, you can't like radio him whenever. You have to talk to him at these certain points. So like there are long parts where you really feel alone, and then you get back and he's like, oh, okay, I'm now caught up with what you've been doing. Here's my tips or whatever. So I just think like that's one way that I think that they've really played with the formula here in a way that makes it really interesting. I actually have one more too. And this is something I probably should have brought up during the Emmy part, but I was watching Jordan stream the beginning of the game, and we were talking a little bit in his stream about what speedruns are going to look like in this game. Because the way that the Emmys work, I'm wondering how much of them are on rails, how much of them are based on where you come in at any point, or how much of it is entirely RNG.
Random, yeah.
Like, are they patrolling that area like ad infinitum, like when you're not in there? Like, it just, I think that shakes it up a lot too. I think that there's like a lot more kind of growth out of, the emergent gameplay because of the Emmys. And not only that, like in the storytelling, I think like if you look at the backgrounds and shit of this game, like I feel like every single room has like so many details, like in the 2.5D kind of backgrounds, and even like little critters like running around or whatever, there's just all this great emergent environmental storytelling that's happening in this game that has been a staple of the Metroid series, but I think that's just plussed a huge amount in this game.
Well, your comment about the Emmy thing, let's talk about that real quick, and then maybe we can move on to other topics. But like,
sure,
other than gameplay, I love that question because we talked about this. Metroidvanias are hard, or not all of them, but that's sort of a staple of the genre and of Metroid, especially for Nintendo games. But like, one of the hardest parts is the Emmy zones, right? Like that's where I die the most, is getting caught by Emmys. And yeah, you leave an Emmy zone and you go back in. And sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not there, like that. I do wonder, is that an art? What do y'all think? Is that it? Because I do feel like I get a sense of it when I'm dying a lot, of like where it's going to be and where it's going to go if I do the same thing.
Well, the doors, whenever you leave them, will be red on the outside until he's left the immediate area, right? So there's like, maybe that's also kind of faked, right? It could just be they're holding it for a certain amount of time.
And then it resets, whatever. Yeah.
But I kind of don't think it is, because like in this game, if you are fighting an enemy and you open the door and the enemy kind of pushes you through the door, if you're on the other side and the door hasn't shut yet, the enemy in the other room can shoot you through that door. You know what I mean? Like you can die on the other side of the door in this game, which you could never do in an old Metroid game. So I do think there is persistence between areas, which is something new for the series as well.
Yeah, if you go back and you've cleared out an area, you go back soon enough, it's still cleared out. But if you wait X amount of time, the enemies respawn.
Right.
So we're talking what's the draw distance?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that.
Well, and there's one time when I was in an Emmy zone where I was above them on a platform, right? And I got to that perfect zone where I could, like, if I go here, they go the other way. Mm-hmm. And I just had this game of like chicken with them where I was just going back and forth and they were going back and forth. And I'm like, I wonder where the
right.
Yeah, dude.
Meanwhile, your Aeon is fucking draining the whole time. You're like, hurry up.
No, I'm kind of curious. That will be an interesting element, the speedruns and the RNG of these Emmys or their behavior or whatever.
It reminds me of Bowser's Fury. Like Bowser's Fury is a very unique speedrun because of the timing mechanic of the Bowser fights. And it's a speedrun unlike any other in any other game. And so I'm interested if that's going to be the case for this.
Well, we talked a lot about the Emmys and about level design. Are there any other gameplay mechanics y'all want to talk about? Maybe boss fights? Or we talked about tight controls. I mean, the game has such good controls. I don't know if there's a lot to be said about that, but like Maybe we should talk about what. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, just with as far as I could talk about boss fights briefly. I like that there are multiple ways to beat all these bosses. Maybe not all of them, but I know like again, I was watching Jordan stream and he beat like one of the first bosses. I think we could probably talk about the first few bosses in this pretty safely.
Yeah, I guess everybody beware that now we're talking about bosses. So
yeah, the first like couple, maybe the first handful of bosses, right? But like the one with the kind of the big scorpion tail. I think it's like the first real boss that you fight.
First real boss, yeah.
Boss that you fight. Did I say that right? I couldn't say if it's a boss that you bite or not. But anyway, so he goes invisible for his second phase of the fight, and I didn't even realize, but you can shoot the glowy bit on his tail, which I now realize is like the way you're supposed to do it. I didn't know that. So I just kind of was like, all right, I guess I'll try to shoot his fucking face, and just like dodged as much as I could and just shot invisibly at his head until he died. You know what I mean?
I had no idea you could do that.
Yeah. And then I watched Jordan and I was like, oh, there's this whole third phase of the fight that I didn't even realize was in there because I totally skipped it because of the way that I was playing it.
Well, I'm not sure who did it right then. If you skipped the third phase.
No, I did it wrong, certainly. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of something I also noticed with that boss. I am notoriously very bad at the little the melee counter things.
We haven't talked about that, which is a big part of the gameplay too.
I'll be honest, I did not land a single one on that boss. And I was kind of worried that like you had to do that for like the final blow or whatever. And I just kept going at it. And no. So it's like it's kind of neat to know there's multiple ways you can beat the bosses.
Yeah. And then there's another one as well. I'm sure that this has been kind of making the rounds online recently. And this boss was in the trailers, so I feel like pretty safe talking about it. But during the Kraid fight,
is that the second boss?
I think so. Yeah, the second like main boss.
Pretty
I guess.
Main boss,
not counting Emmys or
right.
cores or whatever, right? But if during the Kraid fight, if you sequence break and you get power bombs early, you can beat him in an entirely different way. That was like built into the game. That. I'll save you guys if you don't want to look it up, and you want to do that on your own, go for it. But there's like, if you sequence break in this game and you get certain items early, there are creative ways that you could beat some of these bosses that they've built in specifically for the people that will be sequence breaking.
Yeah, that sequence that David, that you're talking about is like built in from the developers. There's a whole sequence, an animated sequence and a cinematic sequence that makes it a unique experience, but you can only see it if you do break the sequence of Metroid and come back to this boss fight.
Yeah, you figure out a way to get to where you need to go early. Yeah,
that's super cool because I feel like that boss fight is early enough where the game still feels very linear. Like it's locking you out of areas. It's like that's maybe where it starts to open up, but like I did not know that. That's cool. Because I think that's one of the great things about this genre is that you can kind of do things out of order sometimes or here and there or explore areas that maybe you shouldn't. But
that's Super Metroid in particular is very much like that. If you master the wall jump early on, you can get some crazy shit early on.
Cool. Was there anything else about the gameplay that we didn't talk about? We kind of briefly covered boss fights. I mean, boss fights, like I think they're tough in this game. Like it's just, but they're satisfying and they're beautiful. And maybe that can lead us into the art. Like, I think the boss fights are one of the places. I mean, you were talking about the environmental storytelling, like talk about the art. Just this game looks awesome.
Yeah, no, I think it's incredible. I love the cutscenes so much. I love that there's a ton of them in this game.
Yeah, there's a lot of little cutscenes.
Yeah, a lot of little cutscenes that then just like the camera pulls out and you're right in it. You know what I mean? And they're gorgeous, dude. Like this is like maybe the best looking game on the Switch, to be honest. Like maybe I'm just playing it on an OLED, so my eyes are popping out of my head. But it's like Samus as a character in this game feels so fleshed out. Just from like the little turns of her head as she's looking around an area, she just feels to have like so much personality. You know what I mean? And after that first Scorpion fight, like whenever she like fucking is about to kill the thing, or the camera like there's like a rack focus to her looking like a fucking badass. It's just like so cool, like how they how these cutscenes, and they'll even give little hints of like first person view or whatever, which makes me want to play Prime 4 really badly.
Yeah.
but it's gorgeous, man. I think this is one of the best looking games I've ever seen.
Yeah, even the aesthetic loading screens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Those are dope. Whenever you're taking an elevator or one of the other transit opportunities.
Trams.
Trains, whatever they are. There's those loading screens are so great.
That's why Samus is a way more focused person than Spider-Man. When Spider-Man's doing those, he's staring at his phone.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Samus is just staring forward, thinking about her next objective.
Yeah, I guess so. It's a 2D game, but like it has these cutscenes that are 3D, and then it also has this element of when you get that certain weapon that you move into that. I don't know what you call it.
It's kind of over the shoulder-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really makes you realize this whole thing is the way that they've made it is rendered in a way that they can 3D move around. It's super cool looking. And even though it's 2D, like you said, kind of it shows all these things happening in the background that are kind of like 3D. It just looks great.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
I mean, while we're talking about art, great to talk about music and sound design. This game has incredible sound design. I mean, we're talking about the Emmy zones already, which is where a big part of it is. But like, I love the music and the sound effects in this game. I mean, it's got classic Metroid sound effects, and then I didn't even realize, but you're talking about Jay, right? Like some modified ones for the Emmy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I need to actually like look it up and see. But
no, I think you're right. It's the similar tones.
It sounds like it. It's kind of like how in Majora's Mask they did a similar thing. Like some songs or Zelda songs backwards or rearranged. Mm-hmm. So I love that whenever they can do that kind of thing in the game.
Mm-hmm. We got to find Totaka's theme in this.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure it's in the game somewhere. Yeah. No, the music is wonderful. Also, like you were saying, Patrick, it feels very much like it, like even like the synths they're using and stuff like sound like old classic Metroid synths, but then with beautiful like extra layers built onto it that makes it feel more modern. There's one zone that really reminds me of like Danny Elfman or something. I don't know what it is. There's one area where it's just got this kind of like a little bit of like almost like a waltzy lilty thing. Or
is that Cataris?
Maybe. Yeah, but there's one where it's like, damn, am I in a Tim Burton movie right now?
I also like the way Adam sounds. Like there's something about that's very like, I don't know. I wouldn't call it like unsettling, but just because there's not a lot of voice acting, but it's like yeah, and it's got me. I don't know yet. I don't know if there's anything behind that or if I'm just thinking, but I'm like, something's up with that. And I kind of like having that suspicion,
Yeah. Well, it's also you get kind of rollover story progression and character progression from Fusion with Adam as well, which is interesting. And Other M, if you want to consider it canon.
I don't.
Yeah.
Well, like I don't know. There's a lot more to say about music and sound design. It's just so good. But that leads us into story. You were kind of talking about the story. Like I haven't gotten far enough into this game to really talk about how it fits in. I mean, one of the things I think this game does really great is a very concise tutorial and background, in the first few minutes of playing, where it very clearly but concisely gives you the context of what's happened in the previous games, without a lot of fanfare, but with enough text. I don't know. I just think this game does a really good job of getting you into this world with the right amount of information, which is not true of a lot of video games. But anyway, maybe to somebody who's played it further, can you vaguely talk to us, Matthew, about the story? Is there any way
more, baby? I'm all about the lore.
Spoiler free. Share with us your thoughts.
I just have so many questions about the implications of the lore and the story throughout this entire experience. What that could mean for the Metroid as a franchise. What does it look like from there? I have other questions, like we've talked about Kraid as one of the bosses. Like, how did they get Kraid Kraid from Planet Zebus. Craig
from Halo. How did they get Craig from Halo?
I don't know, but
Craig Ferguson.
Craig Ferguson, Craig from Halo. He's finally here. He's in Smash and Metroid Dread and Nickelodeon All Stars Brawl. He's everywhere. Like, how did this Chozo tribe transport Kraid from Zebus to ZBR is the name of the planet.
Yeah.
And what about this Chozo person that we saw at the very beginning of Dread? Like, who is he? Where did they come from? And what does it look like with the rest of the Chozo? I thought all the Chozo were dead. And just like so many questions about the Metroid universe and just like the richness of the characters and all the power-ups and all of the different. There's so much opportunity. I talked about this in the last Metroid recap that we did, but there's the richness of this universe can be just like exploit it, Nintendo. Give us more. Give us an anime.
And it's never too much, right? Like that's kind of one of the great things about Metroid, and I think it's something that they've gotten down that a lot of the other first-party Nintendo franchises haven't in terms of lore, where it's like. There is a continuing story through all of these games and a very deep history and deep characterization for all these characters, but it's not like overwhelming. Like you can play the games and not give a fuck about the story and still have the same amount of fun, basically. You know what I mean? But if you want it, it's there, and it's not only like, it's not something you have to search for like Splatoon, it's just presented simply and concisely and briefly in a way that makes it palatable but also very deep.
Nice. Well, those are the main beats we had to talk about on the outline. I don't know. Is there anything else on Metroid Dread? With this initial
I can't wait for y'all to finish it so we can like talk implications.
Maybe we need a spoiler episode. At some point. Yeah. Where
maybe we'll do a 2-parter special with Dodo and also spoiler talk. Well, no, I mean. Yeah, I can't wait to finish it. I mean, I'm gonna go play it as soon as we're done here. I'm like,
me too.
I know, right?
I need to play it more. Yeah. And it's like, and knowing that you can do sequence breaks and knowing the speedrun potential and all the ways that the game kind of gates you, but then also opens you up to other areas makes me want to replay it too. You know what I mean? Like I haven't even finished the first playthrough and I already know I want to play this game again. Maybe that's a good question here is, this game, and we've had this debate a million times, right? But this game is like, I've seen some people beat it in like 5 hours, this game, right? I think the 100% people are beating it in like 9 to 12 hour range in there.
Kudos to them. That's not me.
Yeah, no, that's not me either. But it's like $60 game. Worth it? I mean, it feels like, I mean, the quality is out of this world.
It feels like, to me. Like I understand. I don't think there's any way that I can beat this game in less than 20 hours. So that's hard for me to say because like, if you're a super gamer, like maybe it doesn't feel like it, but like for me, it feels worth it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that doesn't answer your question.
I think this is like,
I think it does.
So that's exactly answers.
Yeah.
I've been talking about Dread with a few coworkers this morning, and I was like, "Hey, this is a great game. You should play this. It's one of the best Metroid games." And I tell them how long it took me to beat it, and that was a deterrent for them. That the average time, if that's between 8 or 9 hours to beat it, then that's a deterrent. It does not equal $60. But I think the quality of that experience in that small amount of window is great.
Do you think it only took you 8 or 9 hours, Matthew?
What was the in-game clock time for you?
8:05.
8:05. Yeah. But it's also, it doesn't that's not real play time.
Because is it when you die, it doesn't count?
I don't think so. I think that's
Probably
from
not.
save to save to save.
Yeah.
I think every Metroid game is like that, actually.
And mine was only 43% complete, so I didn't do a lot of backtracking.
Can you estimate how much time you spent, or is that too hard? I mean, sometimes I have no clue how to do.
Probably closer to 9. Sometime I would estimate between 9 and 10.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's going to take you 20 hours, Patrick. But it's like, but it is like,
it feels that way. But I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Yeah,
this is like what Metroid games are right now. In the past, on fucking Game Boy Advance and on 3DS, these were $40 games. You know what I mean? Because that was the price then. But I think that if there ever was a game to argue quality over quantity, it's this one, right? Like the amount, like if you wanted to, you could like sit in every single room and just study all the details of everything that's going on in the backgrounds. And I find myself just like holding and like double tapping in the home button to like zoom in on shit and like see the little details that are going on in the background. I've been finding myself doing that quite a lot as I'm playing, actually. Yeah. And so I think that this is certainly a game to me that feels like it's worth $60. I mean, if this was a 3DS game, it just would be $40, but that's just the way that these games go. If this was a PS5 game, it'd be $70, right? Which, fuck, I just described Returnal. I'm kidding. That's a different game. But it's got Metroid DNA though. But yeah, anyway, I think it's spectacular. I definitely think it's worth the money. And I really think if you've been considering this game at all and it's interested you, but you've maybe been holding off, I say take the plunge. I think this is a fantastic game, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. It'll be worth your money.
Can I ask this question? We've talked about Nintendo and updates and all that kind of stuff. Do you think there's any chance this game gets some update that isn't just like fixing errors? Like, I don't know what that would be. Leaderboards, little side mission at most. Like, no, I probably would not, right? It feels like it won't.
That Bayonetta costume. I don't know. This is loosely tied to...
They should unlock, if you use the amiibo, you can fast travel to wherever you want.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. This is one of the few games, when you put it in, you launch it, there's no day one download. You can start it.
It's true.
It was such an unusual
They're done
experience.
and they're done. Yeah.
I kind of think that's it. It's obviously a very different game, but I'm kind of thinking, I was going to say Mario Odyssey. I know they came out with like one thing, but then that was kind of it. And it's kind of what it feels like to me too. Like, this is complete, and I'm glad it's great so far. So maybe, I don't know, maybe like a very short extra thing. But
yeah, I could see kind of like the ending of Zero Mission with the whole Zero Suit section, right? Like a little coda to the game, if they wanted to put something out later. I could see something like that, but I doubt they would charge for it. I think that would be a free update if they did do that. But I just can't see it happening, to be honest. I think they just put all their time into like crafting. I mean, this just feels like an old school game, right? Like it just it just feels like the way games used to be, and that's such a breath of fresh air these days.
Yeah.
That would be my like throwback to those people that are like, the time spent is like, the time you spend on this game is worth that compared to some games where you have padded out experiences.
Like an Ubisoft open world game where most of your time you're just looking at menus and figuring out
running around.
Which one hours.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's before we stop talking, Mercury Steam. Let's talk Mercury Steam, man. They fucking killed it. What they did before this, they're not a Nintendo first party studio
yet.
They're independent. Yeah, right. Though that's kind of part of what I wanted to bring this up for is, do we think there's an acquisition in their future? Do we want them to stay on Metroid? Do you think they want to keep doing Metroid? Because I mean, they did the Castlevania Lord of Shadow trilogy, is that what it's called?
Yep.
And that first game was under Kojima and was really fantastic. And then whenever they kind of did the other two on their own, a lot of people say the quality kind of dropped on those games. Now obviously they have Sakamoto here kind of like leading up their team, who's like kind of the Metroid mainstay, as the kind of the Japanese overseer to the Spanish studio.
Octogenarians.
Right. Yeah. He's 97 years old. But I mean, what do we think? I mean, do we think that they should stay on these kinds of games? Do we think Nintendo should acquire them?
I'd be okay with it. If they keep, I mean, I guess they have retro for Prime. So if this becomes like the 2D Metroid team, like it'd be kind of neat, I think.
Yeah. I'm one of the few people that love corporate structure. But one of the unique things with Mercury Steam is that Nordisk Film, they do lots of Scandinavian film distribution, but they purchased a 40% stake in Mercury Steam in December 2020.
Ooh,
So you have another investor who's interested in Mercury Steam that Nintendo would potentially have to buy out of their stake.
Right.
So you're not just talking with Mercury Steam, buying them out, buying a whole company. Now you're talking to two different companies, and that complicates things quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that little bit of info makes it sound more difficult, but prior to knowing that, it seems possible. It's again, we'll see what happens with the success of this game, because I think that could define it too, right?
Right.
Which I think is likely to be very successful based on what feels like's happening right now.
It's also like what they want to do. You know, do they want to make they've only ever done established IPs, you know, like, do they want to make their own game? Like, I'd love to see what they could do now, especially after having played this game. But yeah, I will say the quality leap between Samus Returns and this game, though, gives me a lot of confidence in Mercury Steam. And it shows me that they're paying attention and that they're learning from their mistakes, and that I would be fully confident in them just taking over 2D Metroid going forward. I think they've done an excellent job, and I think they could still improve on this game as well. You know, in the same way that Breath of the Wild is like a masterpiece, but it's, you know, you can improve on that game too. And so, yeah, I'd love to see what they do next within this franchise.
Nice. Anything else before we move on and call it on Metroid Dread? I feel like you were about to say something there, Matthew.
Just a little bit. Going back to the store, lore implications.
The lore store.
The lore store. Welcome. Glad you could join us. Like the implications of you destroy these blue brains, which gives you the Omega Canyon. That tells me that this Chozo race has a master computer that's similar to Mother Brain. That's a good point. Giving technology to this planet. So whatever that technology is similar to Mother Brain from the original Metroid, which is the main boss from, Metroid Zero Mission and the original Metroid on Nintendo. What that could mean for larger implications for the story. We could see another version of Mother Brain, but just a blue one instead of a red one.
Yeah, just like biomechanical weaponry and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fascinating. Thank you for holding your tongue on major spoilers, man.
Yeah, good job.
Very good work.
I had not made the Mother Brain.
But it's a brain.
Say it, yeah.
But it's a brain. Yeah, I'm
they
like,
call
you're
it
right. Yeah,
a core processor. You acquire the Omega Cannon from the core processor. It's a brain.
God.
Yeah, that very first brain thing you see early on. For a quick second, I was like, no way, it's not Mother Brain, but it definitely opened up that possibility. Like, there might be some kind of connection here.
All right, then. I think we talked about it. We did it. We talked about Metroid Dread. Wow. What a game is all I got to say to close this out. I really love
Seriously.
this game.
Yeah.
It's so good.
They knocked it out of the fucking park, man. Yeah.
Can't believe we have a great 2D console Metroid game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And my first Metroid was Fusion, so it's awesome to see. Yeah, I love
a direct sequel to Fusion.
Exactly, and I'm loving it. Like, it feels like I'm playing Fusion for the first time again, and I love it. It's like full circle, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, I was talking with Jordan as well about this, but it's like, man, what do you think is the timeline of the Metroid series? Do you think all this shit takes place within like a year or two? Like, I feel like it's all pretty. I feel like she's just having like a really rough couple years.
Yeah.
Over the entire Metroid series, including Prime.
Totally. I think that, yes.
Yeah. I think it's all like just bang, 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 bang.
Damn.
I'd love to see a breakdown of that at some point.
All right. Well, we've talked long enough. We're going to call it there, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we'll talk about the other games we've been playing recently. All right. I don't have a lot to report here. I kind of wasn't beating some games wasn't in a good place to start anything new before Metroid Dread, but I guess I'll take this opportunity to just talk about Smash because I play Smash a lot and I haven't really talked about it in a long time, but I've kind of gotten into the rhythm of playing a little bit of Smash every day for the last while, actually, probably like 2 months.
When are you going to go to Evo?
Yeah, I feel like I'm slowly improving, but I'm still bad. Like maybe not compared to your average person, but compared to like good people.
Mm-hmm.
And probably it's just because of the way I like to play. I just like quick play. I love the thrill of playing somebody random online. And I know not everybody feels that way, but like, it doesn't mean I practice well. I do the same mistakes. You know what I mean? But I feel like I slowly get better this way. But anyway, that's really, honestly, I think that's the only other game I've played. I've been playing some like random racing games on Apple Arcade with my son, but like that's just because he's into racing games. I don't know.
Still playing Hot Wheels?
Not as much this week, I am afraid, because but he did talk about it today. He's like, we should make a track that's this. And I was like, yes, because we paid $50.
And it's only 8 hours long.
I know.
I'll go next. I've been, other than Dread, I've mainly been playing a really fun game called re-downloading all my digital games on my new OLED Switch. That's been a multi-day ordeal, but I've got like most of the big ones. And honestly, it's been kind of nice to cull a little bit because my home screen was just like, you know what I mean? And I had everybody else's profiles on my Switch, and I'm still the only profile on this new Switch so far. I haven't set up any of y'all's profiles on my Switch yet. So it's like all the games that you guys own aren't on there too. So it's kind of like, I'm like going back and kind of seeing like, it's a little bit easier for me to be like, oh, this is the games in my backlog that I actually want to play. So that's been kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, I think the big one to talk about first off is, in my opinion, the true OLED launch game is Tetris Effect Connected. And you guys, or Patrick's chuckling right now, but I'm 100% serious. If you're going to play, I mean, Metroid looks incredible on the OLED because it's got a lot of black areas and shit like that. But like Tetris Effect Connected is like made for this fucking thing, dude. Like it pops off the fucking screen and it's so much fun to play. And I played some of it on stream recently as well. And that was a ton of fun to play because I was like really impressing people because that game moves incredibly fast. Like it's like even faster than Tetris 99 at times. Like, and there's like a master mode that I was playing too, where it was like, holy shit, this is the hardest Tetris I've ever played for sure. And so that shit was a lot of fun. And yeah, I mean, but it scales, right? And that's the thing with Tetris 99 is that like Tetris 99 is only really fun for people that are already good at Tetris. You know what I mean? Because it's like the way the online works, it's just really, really difficult, you know? And it's like you get knocked out really fast and people are like, oh, I made it to like 20th, but I can't get past 20th. Tetris Effect has no such difficulty limit, right? Like you can play the game as easy as you want or as hard as you want. And it's like a spiritual experience. I liken Tetris Effect to basically somebody being like, hey, we need to make a new Tetris game, but we need a new spin. And then some guy's like, well, I just watched the movie Koyaanisqatsi.
Fucking love that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Huge influence on me.
Patrick, if you love Koyaanisqatsi, you will love Tetris Effect. Like it is straight up the Koyaanisqatsi of video games.
Okay, that's
yeah.
Well, I think you may have just sold me on that.
Yeah,
because
it's incredible, and it's on sale right now for like $10 off during its launch period as well. I don't know if it still will be by the time this goes up, but that was because I already bought the game in VR and I played it on Game Pass, and so I was like, man, I'm not going to pay $40 for this. But then it was $30, and I was like, fuck it, and I did, and I'm glad I did. I play it like almost every night. I love this game to death. It's incredible. Tetris Effect Connected is just one of the best games ever made. The online is really excellent too. Let's see. Then I've just been like playing games that I want to like try on the OLED and like see how they look, like Clubhouse Games 51 Worldwide Classics, which no joke looks incredible on the OLED, like straight up, because that game like has, yeah. Well, we're not gonna do that now, but it's like, you know, it's like it's got, that game already had such good graphics and like lighting engine and stuff, and that stuff almost looked photoreal. So playing it on the OLED looks even better. Some other ones that I tried out, I think that retro games look incredible on this thing. The Castlevania Advance Collection, I'm continuing to play, even though, Metroid Dread has kind of put that to the side, but just tried it out. And retro games look amazing on this thing. So crisp and beautiful. Played a little bit of this game called Love. It's like a $1 game or something like that. It's very, very short, but it's got a lot of like blacks in the background. And just like the whole thing kind of like pops with this OLED screen. Really fun little platformer. And then, I will say I did fire up Animal Crossing New Horizons just to make sure the transfer app worked between consoles, and it did. So I showed up and my villager had messy hair, and he was like, "What the fuck?" And I had to like wake up. And I was like, "Man, I haven't opened this game in like over a year." But
what a weird experience to you download an app on both consoles, island transfer to transfer one to the other.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid.
It's so much
Also there is like some stuff that I should have done in setting up my OLED that I did not do when I was doing it that I wish I had done. And now because of that, I have to like download cloud saves for every single individual game that I want to play. Because I did not.
What should you have
basically at the beginning, it's like, do you want to like set up and then move your stuff later? Don't do that. Just do a full move over. Because if you don't, then you have to move over save data, either send it from one console to the other individually, which I had to like look up a list of games that did not have cloud saves and pick out the ones that didn't have them and move them over, or download all the cloud saves individually. But it's either all of them at once or every single one individually.
Oh,
There's
that's
no
terrible.
batch. It's terrible. Yeah. So avoid that if you can. And then, sorry, I've been going long, but lastly, I'll just say, I did want to give a little bit of a shout out to Saturday, Courtney, and ABK. We played, NJ, we played as well. You jumped in for the last few. We played some Mario Kart Online, another game that just, holy fuck, just pops right off the screen on this thing. Looks amazing. I think that Mario Kart 8 is already pretty much the best looking game on the Switch in handheld mode. And the OLED does not change that at all. It's incredible. But yeah, that's what I've been playing recently. I've been playing so many games. Matt, let's go with you. What have you been playing other than Dread?
Dread, I wrapped up and finished Psychonauts 2.
Very good.
My God, it's so good. If you have any interest in like psychedelics or brains or emotions, Psychonauts does a great job about you explore the brains of the characters, and these brains of the characters are their world. And how they see themselves, and how thoughts and feelings about the outside world affects the thoughts on the inside world. So it does a really incredible job through the narrative for exploring like deep thoughts of like doubt and bottling up emotions and fear and like gambling and what it does to the brain. It just does it in such an interesting way with great voice acting and great animation. If you have Xbox or if you have Game Pass, you owe it to yourself to play Psychonauts 2. It's a very beautiful game.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I need to finish that.
Jay.
I need to get it. Oh, my turn.
Your turn.
All right. Nickelodeon All Stars. I know. I'm sorry.
You heard it from heard it from us first.
I played a little bit of the Castlevania because I was itching to play Circle of the Moon because I think that was my first Metroidvania, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah.
The only other game, well, I've been getting back Tetris 99, which I started playing again after watching you play it, David. I love it. But other than that, main thing I've been playing is the Great Ace Attorney. I guess the first one in the Chronicle. I just got to the last case, and man, it's kind of hard to explain. Like if you haven't played the other Phoenix Wrights, not that there's any like huge spoiler connections yet, but the way it kind of goes about, I don't know, the cases is really neat. It also like really tackles like racism and colonialism in a way I did not expect it to, and it's really neat. And it's also might get some flame for this, but it's probably the best version of Sherlock Holmes in my opinion. He's just so charming and so funny. I just love it. So that's kind of my main one.
That's awesome.
Dang, Jay. Yeah, that makes me want to play that because I was like going to get it when it came out. And then I was like, no.
I've heard the second one is like way better than the first one as well in that collection.
That's what I've heard too. It feels like, I want to say the whole game feels like setup, but it's definitely introducing kind of a new world, which is the vibe I get. And so once I'm done, I'm going to jump straight into the second one.
Yeah, I want to hear your thoughts on the whole package.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Man. Okay.
You should just
get it, Patrick. Get it, Patrick.
Just buy it.
Spend your money. Who needs it?
Yeah.
Live aesthetically, except for games.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'd have to. All right. Well, then I think that does it for this week's episode. Thank you, Jay, so much for coming on and talking to us.
Hell yeah. Thanks. Love to do it. Love the Dread. It's all good stuff.
Thanks to MilkyWay.co, who does our website. Thanks to Corduroy, who does our music. If you're looking for me, Patrick, online, I am PDYX.
Hey, I'm Matthew on Twitter, MATHYOU.
I'm pretty much everywhere on the internet at Monolith Fiji. And what about you, Jay? Where can people find you online?
Twitter, and it's at TheHuge27.
There you go. Also a regular poster on the Discord. No one's React game is quite like Jay's on the Discord. I'll say that. Whenever I post something and it's got an emote already attached, I'm like, yo, Jay's here to play. I can already tell. Thanks for being a part of the community, Jay. We love seeing you there.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be there. I get the same note in other servers I'm in. It's like, oh, Jay's been here. It's like, yeah, that's me.
Well, I'm glad we were able to show you that this is indeed a pattern that you have with yourself. If you'd like to find our show, ladies and gentlemen, on social media, we are at Switch Headz on Twitter, at Super Switch Headz on Instagram and Facebook. And then, like we've been talking about, join the Discord. We got a great Discord community and a Facebook group, both of which we'd love to have you guys join. If you're a fan of the podcast and you're not in either of these yet, that's okay. Take your time, but also join. They're awesome, and you'll have a really good time in there and meet some really great folks. This has been our episode on Metroid Dread and the Switch OLED. I think we had some technical snafus early, so we have no fucking idea how long this thing has gone for. Hopefully it hasn't been too long. But if so, thanks so much for sticking around until the end and listening to this. Like Patrick said earlier, make sure you check us out on YouTube. If you're an audio listener, like and subscribe on those videos. It's going to help the algorithm and get us in front of more people as well. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. Stay safe out there, man. Please, if you haven't gotten the vaccine yet, it's not a joke anymore to talk about at the end of the episode. You know, I had someone in my family pass away this past weekend due to COVID. Everybody in their family was unvaccinated, and she was only a few years older than me, man, and that really fucking hit close to home. And so if you've got family members that aren't vaccinated and they're being stubborn, and they're dragging their heels, try to do what you can to get them to come around, because short story is, if you take the vaccine and you get COVID, it'll save your life. Guaranteed, pretty much. I think it's like a 1% chance of it not. So do your due diligence, wear a mask. Let's try to keep this thing contained as much as we can, and keep our family and our loved ones safe, folks, because we got to do that. Other than that, we love you guys very much. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.